The United States government helped you develop that vaccine. It is a huge consumer. Are you prepared to substantially charge less for the vaccine to the United States government and our agencies?
Given the situation at hand, Mr. Chairman, we have no idea of the volume that we need this year. We have very increased complexity.
Yeah, you have complexity, but you have money for stock buybacks by the billions, and you guys became billionaires. That doesn't seem too complex to me.
Bernie Sanders is taking full advantage of the leadership position he has in the Senate as the head of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. He has decided to call on executives over at Moderna to testify over their decision to raise prices for the coronavirus vaccine. Now, while this is specifically about the coronavirus vaccine, I want you guys to kind of take a step back and understand the implications, the broader implications, and the messaging that Bernie's trying to put out there. We as American taxpayers fund the research and development of all sorts of pharmaceutical drugs through the NIH. Then the pharmaceutical companies who develop those same drugs using our resources turn around and price gouge us. And that is the message that Bernie was trying to send out there by doing this hearing in the first place. Now, much of Bernie's frustration with Moderna comes from the insane price hike that the company had proposed back in January. Just want to give you the details on that, and then I want to hear your thoughts, Sean. Moderna faced angry backlash following the CEO's announcement that the firm is considering pricing its COVID-19 vaccine somewhere between $100 and $130 per dose in the United States. The upper end of that range, according to the People's Vaccine Alliance, would represent a $4,000 markup above the cost of manufacturing the shot, which experts have pegged at roughly $2.85 per dose. And that was something that Bernie harped on during the hearing. He's like, it costs like less than $3 to produce this. How can you justify that price hike?
Yeah, I'm glad that he pointed out the stock buyback that they engaged in. Like whether you're talking about the pharmaceutical companies or like the gas companies last year or whatever, like what the scam should be, and this would be more than enough to enrage literally everyone, would be that they lie about the need to maintain some artificial structure of support or something, whether it's the subsidies that they got for the vaccines or the high price of gas over the last year. And then when the time is right, they do the stock buyback, and then they pointed us and they're like, I gotcha. That should be it. But they just keep going.
They can't get enough.
But we already know what you did. What are you talking about? That like you desperately need to raise the price of this vaccine because you can't afford to keep going. The very fact that you were able to plow billions of dollars back into your business solely to inflate your own personal valuation inside of the company and the stock price, that's indisputable that you are on fine footing when it comes to that. They were already making money. And look, I'm glad that Bernie is focusing on that aspect of it. And certainly for some people, this will result in, if it goes through, them not being able to buy the vaccine in the future. But in a larger sense also, it implies that a country that has already, I think, not had the uptake on the vaccine that it should have had the last couple go-arounds, we're gonna have even less participation going forward. And vaccines are very much a thing where your own personal involvement in it is not the only thing that matters.
Right.
And so this is insulting financially, but it's also distressing in a public health sense.
Absolutely. And again, so the reason why I'm kind of harping on the broader implications of this kind of behavior is because I'm worried that people who bought into the anti-vaccine rhetoric aren't gonna care about hearings like this. But you should, because this is a common practice by pharmaceutical companies, right? And look, there are people who need to be vaccinated. There are people who have certain health issues that make them even more vulnerable to the coronavirus, right? So in order to protect themselves, they need that vaccine. Making it less accessible for people who don't necessarily have the funds to pay for the higher prices is a disastrous situation, and that's what John is speaking to. Now, after announcing in January that they were going to increase the prices, there was so much backlash, and there was the announcement that Bernie was gonna call for this hearing. They backed off a little bit. So last month, after Bancel agreed to testify at Wednesday's hearing, Moderna said that when the federal government's public health emergency declaration expires in May, COVID-19 vaccines will continue to be available at no cost for insured people, while the company's patient assistance program will provide COVID-19 vaccines at no cost to uninsured or underinsured people. Now, Bernie Sanders did respond to that. In fact, he said, that is good news. The bad news is that most patient assistance programs are poorly designed and are extremely difficult, if not impossible, for patients to access, he added, urging Moderna to reconsider their decision to quadruple the price of the vaccine and not raise the price at all. And by the way, another thing that's important to keep in mind is they say it's gonna be easily accessible to insured people, right? So what they like to do is have insurance companies pay higher prices for, in this case, the vaccine, in other cases for the drugs that they put out into the market. If you're on Medicare, then the taxpayer pays that tab. The taxpayer ends up getting price gouged in order to provide that medication, or in this case, the vaccine, through the Medicare program. So no, that is not a solution, and I love that Bernie called them out on it. And when insurance companies pay higher prices for pharmaceutical drugs, premiums go up for everybody. It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to, but of course it will. We know that. Yeah, when I see this happening, especially now, like I know that I'm the weirdo that I still check the COVID numbers every day.
No, you're not weird at all.
Or whatever. I feel like secretly, like everybody says that they're sick of the pandemic and they want to move on, but I feel like lots of them want to continue it. Because when the numbers finally start to go down, and we're about to finally drop below 20,000 cases per day, I think we're like 22,300 today. It just feels like things are lining up to juice it once again. Like you got the investigations where they're gonna try to get Fauci, and I don't know, the jacking up the price and everything. I just want us to be able to move on. I want like your access to these vaccines and boosters going forward to be an automatic thing that you don't have to worry about. And even in not worrying about it, you don't have to suffer financially for it. We invested billions of dollars as a nation into this. That should have us be good going forward. The fact that they're gonna try to stick us once again is I just want to be done with it.
And if you're wondering just how much money we gave Moderna in particular, we've got some details on that. Let's watch.
Moderna is the poster child for the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. First, Moderna worked hand in hand with scientists at the US National Institutes of Health to invent the COVID vaccine. Next, the federal government funded nearly all of the vaccine's development, providing at least $2.1 billion in support for research and development. Third, the federal government bought $10 billion worth of doses. In total, taxpayers have spent $12 billion on Moderna. We made the COVID vaccine possible. Moderna's executives became billionaires, and the company raked in $21 billion in profits. How has Moderna thanked the federal government and taxpayers for their support? It started by erasing the contributions of the federal government and by refusing to name federal scientists as co-inventors of the vaccine. Then, amid a raging pandemic, Moderna has refused to share the vaccine recipe with African scientists working to expand global production, even after direct requests by the World Health Organization.
Yeah, it seems like baking in a profit motive on healthcare related matters has been working out real well for us. It's real great, it's excellent,
It's a reminder that I say we've decided, we haven't decided, but they decided that they're basically every industry you can make money off of. And if you stop for even a second and think about that, that's stupid as hell. You shouldn't make money. Fundamentally, the purpose of pharmaceuticals, it should not be to make money. That should be maybe a secondary, a tertiary thing, something like that. Same for production of weapons. When you allow that to be a thing that people have a vested interest in continuing to make endless amounts of profits off of, then that is going to infiltrate literally everything, and the decision making is going to be such to make sure that they always have that as a reliable thing. And if there isn't a reason for it, then they will create a justification for it. They shouldn't be making money off of this. This pandemic, we should have come out of the pandemic knowing that this was always a horrible thing. We didn't need to look at like crisis medicine or anything. We already understood how messed up our health insurance industry was. But the fact that they've gotten through this and now they're doubling down with the stock buybacks.
Yeah, it's crazy. And by the way, the reason why they do this, the reason why they get away with the blatant greed is because, as I say over and over again, The corruption is baked into our system. Health industry spending on federal lobbying rate rose 70% from 2000 to 2020, largely driven by drug and device makers and activities surrounding the Affordable Care Act. The industry as a whole, get a load of this, spent $713.6 million lobbying federal policymakers in 2020 alone, compared to $358.2 million in 2000. Drug makers and hospitals have been among the top 5 overall spenders on lobbying for nearly a quarter of a century, according to Open Secrets. And that's the reason why they're able to constantly socialize the research and development part of it, but then keep all the profits for themselves as they price gouge the very Americans who funded that research and development.
Yep.
It's disgusting.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.